I recently read the book From Campus to Career Navigating the First Few Years on the Job by Sue Shellenbarger. And there were a couple of things that really stood out to me that I would love to share today. So, first, she talks about public speaking. And this is something that I think most people kind of have a fear of. But most of us are able to prepare a little bit better when we're going into a presentation where we know that we're going to be public speaking. However, what she talks about specifically is when you're caught off guard. You are at a networking event and somebody asks you a question that you're not prepared for, or the same thing at a meeting. And there's a couple of things that she recommends to act as a solution to this. And one is to always assume that you'll be asked to speak and always be ready. I think that there is no such thing as being over prepared. When we over prepare, not only are we able to go into situations more confident about how we're going to talk about our duties, our responsibilities, our job, whatever it may be, but we also get to really think critically about what we're doing. If it's a project that we're about to be asked about in a meeting or that we're about to discuss, then being able to think about that prior might actually open new doorways in your mind about what that project is. So at the end of the day, it's just never a bad thing to be over-prepared. And the next thing is to treat your anxiety as a normal response and tell yourself that you're excited. And I think that this is really great advice that she gives, because I think that anxiety is a tool. Anxiety is typically looked as something that is more negative. However, I think that when you use it to your advantage, it can make you look excited, it can make you look energized, and it can actually help you think through situations better. The next thing that she talks about is networking. And at every point or at any point in somebody's life, there is going to be an element of networking. Everyone has to do it. It doesn't matter what field you're in. There is an element of networking, whether you realize it or not. But, there are definitely situations where there's a higher level of that, and that involves networking events. Networking events can be really intimidating to a lot of people, I think. So she gives a little bit of advice to help people out with this. And she says, and this is a direct quote from the book, "People who are genuinely open to new relationships adopt an open stance, shoulders apart and hands at their sides, turning slightly towards newcomers to welcome them. Saying you're delighted to meet someone when your arms are crossed in front of you is confusing, suggesting you're actually close to contact and don't mean what you say." And I think this is something that people do struggle with, is that your words is not always what you're actually communicating. A lot of your communication is happening through your body language, through the fluctuations in your voice. So what you want to do is welcome your body up as well as your voice and the words that you're saying. And she, she explains this again, saying that people are more attracted to a person's warmth rather than the exact words that they're saying. And the last thing that she mentioned that really stood out to me in the textbook was to go the extra mile without burning out. So I think that this is really critical, because at some point in your life, there is going to be a moment where you realize you've just been working and working and working, and you are tired. You don't feel like you can get anything done on time. Nothing is up to the standards that you wish that they were at. And this is something that everybody goes through, and it's something that we all need to know how to work through. So the things that she recommends to solve this are setting priorities for using your time. I think that we mentally might create these lists, but putting it down on paper, you really vocalizing what those priorities are and setting those and making that promise to yourself can really help you make sure that you're not over dedicating time to things that aren't important. The next is to delegate work to others and avoid becoming a bottleneck. I think a lot of people, especially those who are used to having things dumped on them, want to get everything done themselves. They don't trust other people to do it. However, there is something to say about using others to your advantage and giving them work so that you, one, are able to give yourself a fresh breath of air, but also it allows other people to get better at those tasks. The next is to look for ways to help teammates improve their skills. Again, giving work to your teammates instead of always just taking it all on yourself can actually help people improve their skills. And the last is to realize that overloading yourself won't help your employer in the long run. There is something to say about the old saying that you always put your mask on first before helping others. You have to make sure that you're okay before you can get everything done for the company. When you're in a better place and you have a mind that is peaceful and calm and focused, that is what helps your employer in the long run. Thank you so much for listening to the things that really stood out to me. And again, From Campus to Career, Navigating the First Few Years on the Job is a great book, and I would recommend it to anyone. Thanks.